What's up, dudes? This is Constantine. Today we're going to look at a game called Never Alone. I'm not going to bother butchering the pronunciation of its other name. I'll just put it on screen. This game was published by Eline Media. The developer of the game is Upper One Games. In this game, you control a girl named Nuna and an Arctic fox. There is local co-op in this game, which reminds me a lot of the game Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I can see how having a second player would have been very useful in this game. The game is a side-scrolling puzzle platformer. For a puzzle game, it does require some quick reflexes, as enemies and the wind will really mess you up if your timing isn't spot on. The cutscene animations are well done, and I like the unique art style. I love the narration between scenes and during the gameplay. There's really something in the narrator's voice and the language itself that really reminds me of being told a story. I could listen to this narration without the subtitles. The in-game graphics and the cutscenes are exactly what they need to be for this type of game. You don't need 4K resolution to tell a good story. And the story is probably the strongest part of this game. The puzzles in the story are based on actual Alaskan indigenous stories. The story is actually very emotional. It doesn't get nearly as dark and sad as Brothers, but parts of the game are still very sad. Unfortunately, it is a very short game. I finished the game in around 3 hours, and that was with dying a lot. My comparison with the game Brothers stands here as well, as that game was also very short. Now let's talk about the game's biggest downfall, the controls. The game starts out simple enough, teaching you the controls like most games nowadays do. A simple run from a polar bear to teach you the basic controls of the game. The gameplay evolves a good bit. You go from simply running and jumping over obstacles and pitfalls to dodging fireballs, falling branches, evil spirits, avoiding wind hazards, and using the wind to your advantage. You also get a BOLA that can be used to break ice and stun certain enemies. I personally feel like the aiming with this item is a little bit more difficult than it should be. I didn't bother messing with the controls at all for this game, and I am using a controller. Winding up, aiming, and throwing the weapon all use the same joystick. With this controller setup, you wind up by pressing back on the joystick, aim by pressing up and down while still holding back, and throw by pushing forward on the joystick. This makes it very difficult to be precise with your aiming. It's possible that the aiming is more precise using a mouse and keyboard, but I've always preferred a controller. My opinion is that if a game claims full controller support, it should be optimized for the game. The aiming system for this game is not optimized for controller use. The controls can be a little tricky, especially switching back and forth between the two playable characters. A wrong step, or not switching back to the other character at just the right moment, can result in death. And if you're anything like me, this will happen again and again and again. In a game where timing can be life or death, the controls needed to be tightened up just a little bit. Some of the weird glitchy physics in this game are just unacceptable. Both Nuna and the fox seem to get stuck on things frequently. This happened more than once. An occasional glitch in a game is forgivable. Glitches are going to happen. There's no way around it. No game is 100% glitch-free. But look at all these playtesters. None of them saw this happen? Repeatedly. Again and again and again, this happened. The spirits are only tangible when the fox is close to them. So the floaty physics of the fox can often lead to accidentally moving too far away from the spirit and causing Nuna to fall. One thing that I didn't like about the game is I feel like this is another one of those games where you have to die. There are just some areas where it's not entirely clear to you what you're supposed to do, and it's very much trial and error. None of the puzzles are too hard to figure out, but there are certain ones that are going to kill you the first time. A good example of the vague direction you're given in the game is when you come across the ice giant. It took me quite a while to figure out what I was actually supposed to do here. The first time I got here, I thought that something had went wrong with the game. I thought I'd triggered some kind of glitch that just wouldn't let me progress any farther in the stage, so I restarted. After restarting and getting back to the same point, I still couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do. I tried jumping in every direction and couldn't find anything that seemed like it was the right way. I spent a long time in this area until I finally found this. Maybe it's just me, but this didn't stand out to me in the same way that all the other times you have to use the BOLA to break something. With the spirit animal on the side, it looks like you should jump over there. All of that aside, if you like puzzle platformers, you'll probably like this game. That's all for this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.